The Penn State Nittany Lions back here at Lucas Oil. Last team other than Ohio State to win a Big Ten championship game. Can this group challenge for one this year? Certainly a lot of production back for James Franklin. Nearly 80% of the production from last year. You see in the middle of the Big Ten, new offensive coordinator in Mike Yurcich. A couple key returnees on the desk with me, Jahan, Dotson, and Tariq Castro-Fields. You see the players lost to the NFL as well. And as promised, Tariq Castro-Fields, PJ Mustipher, and Jahan Dotson here with me. And guys, I want to start by looking back a little bit on last year because I'm really fascinated. Your team to me was as interesting as any team in the country. And Jahan, I'll start with you, but I want all of you to weigh in. You were a preseason top 5 team or top 10 team. You started the season 0-5, something that had never happened in the history of college football, starting 0-5 after being a top 10 team in the preseason. And yet, instead of folding up the tent, you guys finished as strong as anyone in this league, winning 4 straight games down the stretch. What did that tell you about your team?
Our team was hungry. We had a lot of fighters on our team. We had a lot of guys who were just hungry for wins. We were looking for some in the beginning of the season that wasn't there. And we kind of came together in the middle of the season, just put our head down and just worked together, came together as a family, and we got it done.
How tough was that, PJ, when those goals that you'd set at the beginning of the year were no longer there?
It's definitely tough when things don't go your way. As you expected, all the work in the offseason, you don't plan to lose the first 5 games. You plan to win a national championship, and we didn't reach that goal. But at the end of the day, like Jahan said, we realized who we were. We realized the type of guys we had in that locker room, and that's guys who aren't going to stop, who aren't going to quit. And I think we're really going to take this in and carry it on to this season. We're hungry, like Jahan said, and we're going to keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, so Tariq, how do you build off of that? How do you build off of the momentum from the end of last year?
Yeah, you just use last season as fuel. Every day you come in, practice, you work out, no matter what. Just always remember what happened, but then also don't dwell on it. Just use it as fuel.
Tariq and Jahan, you guys both had choices to make as to whether or not you'd come back. The NFL is certainly a very real possibility for both of you at the end of last year. I know you made the decision together on a Zoom call. Yeah. Is that right? Tell me about that, Tariq.
It was a call between Jesse, Jaquan Brisker, Han, and myself. We just talked about we had unfinished business. We didn't want to leave with that sour taste in our mouth. We just wanted to come back and just do it again and be special.
Yeah, basically what Tariq said. We knew the type of pieces we had coming back, what we could be as a team. We knew the main goal in sight. We knew we had the pieces in place, and we just had to put it together. And we know that no one's going to push us like we push ourselves. So coming back, right thing to do. A lot of things we can achieve this year, and we just can't wait to do it.
PJ, we were talking about all the returning production, but one of the areas where you guys did lose quite a bit in terms of big-time performers, the defensive line. I think of Jason Owe and Shaka Toney and really good players. How does your role change now this year with those guys gone?
Yeah, definitely. My role changes because it grows tremendously. I feel as though it's my room. We do have a lot of leaders in that room, though, who are able to step up and fill roles. Like I said, it's my room, and I have to be responsible for what goes on in that room, meaning those guys look up to me, so I have to be my best on and off the field. In everything I do, I don't have to be perfect by no means, but I do have to be consistent. I have to be consistently great at what I do, too.
Tariq, we're talking about your decision to come back. How big a factor was health for you and proving that you can stay healthy?
Yeah, of course, staying healthy, and I say the best ability is availability. So I just want to prove what my teammates know and what I know. And I also just want to end off on the right foot, right note, and I can't wait to do it in the fall with my brothers. So,
Jahan, I know from a personal point of view for you last year, look, there were a lot of highlights. You had a really good year, and you look to build on it this year. But I think back to one play in particular, and I think you know the one I'm talking about, the catch against Ohio State, against Shaun Wade. How often do people bring that play up?
Yeah, honestly, you think that was the only play I made last year, as much as people bring it up. But I try to tell them I had some other pretty cool catches as well. But, yeah, it was one of the highlights of my career. I've been practicing that ever since I was a young kid, so it kind of wasn't anything new to me or any of my teammates. I do it around them all the time. So it was pretty cool, though, to put it on that pedestal.
What was the reaction of you two to a catch like that?
I mean, we see him do it all the time, but, I mean, he's a special player. He makes special plays, so it was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, but he do that all the time. He make hard things look easy.
Interested in this new offense, and Mike Yurcich, there's been a lot of talk about, what this might look like, and so you're the guy to give us some insight here. Give us a sense of what we should expect.
I use one word, and that's exciting. It's going to be an exciting offense. Just throughout the offseason, we've been kind of just picking Coach Yurcich's brain apart, learning the ins and outs of the offense, watching old Texas highlights, me and Sean going over something Sam Ehlinger did with the receivers and stuff like that. So we kind of just can't wait to get to work with them. We're looking forward to getting into camp and just making plays.
How challenging has this offense been to defend for you guys? Tariq, I can start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's super challenging. It's very explosive. He tries to get the ball in everyone's hands in different ways and different spots on the field. So, yeah, I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, as challenging as it is, it makes us a lot better on the defensive side. They present a real challenge. And having a spring ball against Coach Yurcich, the first one, it was definitely a great opportunity for us as a defense to learn what we need to improve on. And I think we're doing that going into summer camp. So I'm glad he's on our side now.
PJ, we talked about these guys and their personal stories a little bit. I'm interested in yours. Your brother Sam plays in the NFL, and he went from kind of that undrafted free agent to a guy who made a roster and then became a starter. Mm-hmm. What have you learned from him that you can apply to your career?
Yeah, I've learned that no matter what, you got to go to work. No matter how you're feeling, no matter if you're down, no matter if the odds are stacked against you, you got to go to work. And, he does that every day. I was just up there with him. I got to spend the week with him. And just to see, he's working out 2 times a day. He's taking care of his body. He's recovering. And you got to remember, he was undrafted. So, he could have easily, folded up shop and won another route. But he stuck to it. And that's who he is. And that's what I try to do when I live my life every day.
I want to get a couple perspectives on your quarterback. I can start with you, Jahan. Obviously, you work hand in hand with him every day. It's kind of an up and down year last year for Sean Clifford. So, what have you seen from him in terms of his quest to become a consistent quarterback in this offense?
Yeah, Sean is hungry. We can tell that by the way he works every single day. He comes into work. He's hungry. He's looking for any possible way to just get better at his craft. Working with him, going over plays, whether it's throwing with each other one-on-one, whatever it is, he goes at it hard. And he works like a champion. That's one thing I admire about him. His work ethic, it's truly unmatched.
Tariq, what have you seen in terms of his improvement? You have a different point of view on it, obviously trying to defend against it.
Yeah, I think he's just playing with extreme confidence right now. His leadership is phenomenal. He's a great leader. He motivates even me as a fifth-year guy. And I'm excited to see him in the fall for sure.
Your secondary has a lot of experience, a lot of really good players. I think of Joey Porter and how he came on last year. We've mentioned Jaquan Brisker now a couple of times. What are your goals for this secondary?
Just to attack practice each day and attack camp each day. And by the time we go out there and play Wisconsin, be the best product we can be. So that's pretty much our goals.
It's interesting this year, and we've talked a lot about it with the coaches already today and up here on the desk, this notion of beginning with conference games. And you just said it, Wisconsin as the first game of the year. I mean, that is a big-time game, not just in the Big Ten. That's a big-time game nationally. I mean, that's a game people are going to focus on week one. What kind of a motivator is it to have a game like that looming as the first one on the schedule, Jahan?
Yeah, I love it just because you can see what your team is made of early. There's no better feeling than week one going against an opponent like Wisconsin. They're a known team in the Big Ten. We know we have to come to work, and if we don't, then that's starting our season off wrong. So we know that we're coming into a big challenge. It's a big opportunity for us to grow as a team and show what we're made of.
Does it change the way you prepare at all, PJ?
No, sir. It doesn't change the way we prepare because we've always prepared at a high level. Our standard has always been high, but we also understand that we have a tremendous opportunity. I think, this past year we've had to go to bed every night knowing we went 4-5, and what better way to go to Wisconsin the first game and try to get a W. We're excited about the opportunity. Like Jahan said, it's a time where we can showcase what we're all about now in 2021.
One last thing I want to ask you two, you shared an award, the Jim O'Hara Award in the preseason, an award that goes to the Defensive Player of the Spring, players displaying loyalty and positive attitude. How important is it for older players like yourselves to set that tone?
I mean, I think it just shows consistency. I mean, every day you come in, you got to be the same person. You got to work the same. You just got to be all around just consistent. And I think that's the main word that comes to my mind with that.
For sure, consistency. But I also think when you look at the best teams, no matter the sport, when your best players or your oldest players are your hardest workers and the ones who come with a positive attitude to work every day, the younger guys are going to follow, and that creates a culture that's unmatched, and that creates a culture where you can win.
Guys, congratulations to you guys on that award. Best of luck this coming season to all three of you. Really a pleasure to visit with all three of you. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Franklin entering year number 8 at Penn State off a crazy year last year. Remember, started 0-5 and then just fabulous down the stretch, winning their last 4 games despite numerous injuries on the roster. And, of course, previous to that, 3 New Year's 6 games in 4 years for Penn State, and certainly expect to be back at that level this year, starting with a game on September the 4th. Really easy one. They go to Madison, Camp Randall, to take on Wisconsin, a game you can see on Fox. You see Auburn in the non-conference schedule as well, the normal slate of Big Ten East matchups. James Franklin is with us now, and Coach, we'll talk about that Wisconsin opener because it's going to be a huge game, a game that's going to be very much in the spotlight nationally. But I want to start with last year because you and I talked about this earlier. It was incredibly impressive to see the resilience that your guys showed. You had just about everything that could go wrong in a season go wrong, injuries being a huge part of that. Obviously, the uncertainty with COVID, and you had an opt-out that was a huge one. You started 0-5 after being in the top 10. And yet then reeled off 4 straight wins and were playing so well by the end of the year. What did that tell you about your team, that resilience?
Well, I think that's the perfect word, right? Resilient. And I was proud of our guys because it was a challenging year on everybody for a number of reasons. Football, obviously, a lot of the health issues that we were dealing with, COVID. And I get it. Don't get me wrong. Everybody in the country was dealing with it. So I understand that. But for our guys to stick together when guys could have opted out, stuck together, and at that point of the season turn it, I couldn't be more proud. And we were all challenged professionally. We were all challenged personally, something I've never been through personally or professionally. So I was very proud. There's lessons to be learned, right? There better be. You better learn from it. You better grow from it. You better evolve. We have a tremendous foundation over what we've done in my 8 years there. I've had a lot of success, and we're going to take this as an opportunity to learn. We're going to take this as an opportunity to grow. I'm not going to sit here and say that we don't have a huge chip on our shoulder to show everybody who we are.
Coach, let's talk about that opener against Wisconsin. And as a player, kind of think back to my days. You like making a statement early on in the year, but at the same time, there's always that nice little lead up with some of the out-of-conference games to really get your feet up under you. How does your approach change in terms of training camp to get your guys ready for a big game week 1?
Yeah, I don't know if our approach necessarily changes because the reality is you better be maximizing every single year, training camp, the off season, to give yourself the best chance. I think your point is a good one. Obviously, whether it's the NFL and you got preseason or whether it's college football and you got some out-of-conference matchups to learn and grow from, this is different. So I think the biggest approach I would say is the countdown clock in the facility that's had that W on it ticking down. And I always say it's going to be here before you know it, and that's the reality of it, right? This is the start of college football is how I look at it when we have media days. And you talk about a team with great tradition, great history. I've never played there before. I lived in the state of Wisconsin when I was with the Packers, but I'd never been there before, so I'm looking forward to it. I hope I enjoy the whole experience, even the fourth quarter jump around. But it should be a great one. But I think that's probably the biggest difference is that our entire organization and our players understand the type of opponent, the type of venue that we're going into week 1.
What have you seen from your team, looking back to last year, but now having to go through everything you also went through from a personal level? What have you seen them being able to do this season? Has the focus been different at all?
I think the focus has been different. But I would also say to you, I think what happens sometimes is there's some things that are going on that you address within your organization, you address and you deal with. But when you go through what we went through last year, it's magnified.
Yeah.
And you realize that these things need to be addressed and need to be eliminated. And my message to everybody is, I know what it looks like. I know what it smells like. And anything that does not completely align with winning championship football and championship habits for life, they're gone. None of it is going to exist. And don't get me wrong, that's always been the foundation of our program. But maybe there was a few things that we accepted that we shouldn't have. And that was one of the tremendous lessons that I think that we all learned, including myself.
This offseason, you added offensive coordinator Mike Yursich, and he's a guy that you have a lot of experience around, you're familiar with. What are you hoping that he brings to your offense?
Well, I think if you look at Penn State over my time and how we've played, especially when we've had the most success, we've been able to spread the field. We've been able to get athletes in space. We've made defenders defend 53 1/3 from sideline to sideline, as well as 100 yards. Being able to push the ball down the field and create explosive plays, and we got the athletes to do it. So we want to get back to that. Mike's been a guy that I've been tracking for a long time. I always kind of track the Pennsylvania guys. Not that that's the end-all, be-all, but he's from Ohio originally. But he spent a large portion of his career in the state of Pennsylvania. He played in the same conference I did. So I've known about Mike for a long time. He's got a very unusual resume, as you guys know. He went from Shippensburg to Oklahoma State, which is not normally the transition. But you also don't normally go from East Stroudsburg to Penn State either, right? So I've known about Mike for a long time, got a lot of respect for him. I think we complement each other extremely well. Same thing with Brent Pry, because that's important, right? There's got to be complementary pieces between the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the defensive coordinator as well. We all got to work together, and obviously special teams is important too.
Let's talk a little bit about recruiting, and that was taken away from everyone last year, and you guys had done a tremendous job up to that point. What were some of the things that you guys were able to learn and tweak and be better at, because you guys are on fire once again this year?
Well, I'm almost ashamed to say, I think we all are, right? Zoom is not a new technology. It had been around for a long time, and people weren't taking advantage of it. And I just sit there and say to myself, what other technology, what other things are out there that we should be using and taking advantage? So that's one of the things we learned. I mean, how great of an opportunity. Usually I'm on vacation with my family during the month of July, and I feel a little bit guilt that, I'm not with the team and I should be there, and I feel conflicted. Well, I could jump on a Zoom, check in with those guys. Now when I get back with my family, I'm more connected and less distracted. So there's just been a lot of things like that, whether it's recruiting or whether it's development of your team, that we should be using and taking advantage of.
Coach,
go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
I can confidently say from my time as a player in the Big Ten Conference that outside of my home stadium, playing at Penn State was probably the most engaging environment. Last year, obviously, with COVID and not being able to fill the stadium, there were some challenges there. What does it mean to you and your team and your players to be able to get the stadium back full and have that environment back?
As you know, in our conference, there's a home field advantage. Big Ten football is big-time football and great crowds and great environments. It was strange, as you know, driving up to the big house and not a fan in the stadium. I mean, it was strange. Not a car in the parking lot. My wife did this really cool thing where she went out and bought 30 of those cardboard cutouts. Our family, our friends, extended family, which was awesome the first time. After the second and third time, you're walking around the stadium, there's nobody in there. I'm looking at these cardboard cutouts. I haven't been with my family for over a year. But I think your point is a good one. I mean, there's tremendous home field advantages, whether that's playing within our own conference or whether that's bringing a team from outside the conference to our home fields. There's a tremendous advantage, and getting that back is going to be really important. We averaged, I think, 106 and 105,000 to 2 years before COVID. So hopefully we'll be back to that.
Coach, you guys are the last program other than Ohio State to win the Big Ten championship, winning here in 2016. They've been on an incredible run, obviously. You know what it takes to win this thing. So what do you guys need to do to put yourself in a position to win it this year?
It's consistency, right? I mean, I think Penn State has shown flashes of brilliance. Other programs in the Big Ten have shown flashes of brilliance. To play with a team like Ohio State that's been able to do it consistently, that's what we're going to have to do. It's consistently playing championship level football. And then the other thing is, do you have the fortitude and the mentality and the athletes to make the plays when the plays need to be made most? That critical moment that comes at a game. You got to make the right call. You got to make the play. And that's what we're all about that consistency. And you got to respect what they've done. And that's what we're going to get. That's how we're going to get there.
You want to go? Or you want me to go?
I want you to go. Right
Okay,
now.
you're deferring to me.
I'm
So,
deferring to you.
All right, let's talk about one of those athletes in Sean Clifford. Last year was kind of up and down for him. What's it going to take for there to be more up than down this year?
Well, I think a couple things. It's kind of what I mentioned before. It's about learning from the experience. And Sean's a very mature guy. He's been through a number of systems now. He's had a lot of success. I mean, this time last year, people forget talking about Sean as maybe one of the better quarterbacks in college football and arguably the best quarterback in the Big Ten. Part of that conversation, at least. He's still that guy. I'm a huge believer in Sean. And what I'm probably most impressed with is how he handled the adversity from last year, not only during the season and how we had that surge at the end of the season, but also how he's handled himself from the time the season ended to now. Sean's going to have a big year for us this year. That's Sean. That's also wide receivers. We started 2 true freshman wide receivers last year. Those guys are more experienced. And as you know, it's more than a quarterback. We're talented at the running back position, as talented as probably any running back room in the country. Same thing at the tight end position. And our wideouts, I think, are going to surprise some people.
You lost a lot up front on defense. That's the last group I'm really interested in hearing about. You have so much production back, but you think about that defensive line. We were talking with P.J. Mustipher earlier, really impressive young guy. Clearly you're counting on him. Who else can step up there?
Yeah, huge fan of PJ. You spend any time with him, you can see why. You know, his brother was a captain at Notre Dame and is now starting for the Chicago Bears. Just an unbelievable family, an unbelievable young man. He's going to have a huge year for us. But there's a number of guys that we're going to need to step up. We've also been able to get some transfers, get some older guys out of the transfer portal. Ebekidi's a young man from Temple that we were able to bring in. Obviously, a young man as well from Duke. So there's a number of guys. I could sit here and list them all out, but we're going to need a number of guys to step up. We think we have the ability to do that.
Well, we are looking forward to seeing what that looks like when we journey to State College and check out preseason camp. We always really appreciate your time, James. I know it's a hectic day. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you so much.